Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going deep into the mind of David Lynch.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, through his book, Catching the Big Fish. It's less a straight autobiography and um, more like his thoughts on, where ideas come from,
Mm-hmm.
particularly for his films.
Hmm.
And, one of the big things he talks about is transcendental meditation, or TM.
Right, yeah. And what's so interesting is that Lynch wasn't always, into meditation.
Right.
He was actually like a total skeptic about it.
Well, yeah.
He even says like he had zero interest.
Yeah, he talks about that in the book, I remember. And there's that phrase, true happiness lies within, that he says kind of drew him in.
Yeah, but as he points out, it doesn't really give you a map to get there.
Ugh.
So like what actually changed his mind?
Well, he talks about his first experience with TM as being really powerful,
Yeah.
like surprisingly so.
Yeah.
He actually uses this analogy of like being in an elevator and the cable snaps.
Whoa.
This feeling of just like dropping suddenly into this pure bliss.
And
Yeah, and it's interesting because he talks about not missing a single meditation in like over 30 years.
really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing dedication.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, like, beyond just the feeling, what impact did he feel it had on him?
He credits TM with helping him shed what he calls the suffocating rubber clown suit of negativity.
Oh, yeah.
And he really believes that, all that negativity we carry, like anger, fear, doubt, it really blocks our creativity.
That's a, classic Lynch image.
Yeah.
But, I mean, does he give any real-life examples of how that played out?
He does. He shares this story about his wife,
Okay.
noticing that, he was like significantly less angry
Oh.
after he started meditating. It's just, one small thing. But it shows that for Lynch, TM wasn't some abstract concept. It actually, changed his behavior.
Interesting. So how does this all tie into his creative process then? Because he's obviously known for these, really surreal, sometimes dark, and definitely unique worlds in his films.
Yeah.
Where do those ideas come from?
So Lynch talks about this idea of the art life, which he describes as basically dedicating your life to art above all else. And a key part of that for him is uninterrupted time.
Right.
He even quotes this painter, Bushnell Keeler, who said, if you want to get 1 hour of good painting in it, you have to have 4 hours of uninterrupted time.
Wow.
And Lynch really identifies with that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, you need that time,
Yeah.
to really let your mind wander and experiment and really lose yourself in that creative process. Even thinking about his painting, which he describes as this constant interplay of like building and destroying,
Oh, yeah.
it seems like that deep immersion without distraction is so important.
Absolutely. It all kind of connects to this big fish analogy he uses throughout the book, too.
Okay, how so?
Well, he sees ideas as fish. And the deeper you go into your consciousness, the bigger the fish you can catch.
So it's not just about having the time, it's about accessing a different level of awareness.
Exactly. He believes that through TM, you can expand your consciousness and tap into a much deeper well of creativity and get to these, more profound and powerful ideas.
Okay.
He even uses this image of going from like a golf ball-sized consciousness to something much larger.
I like that visual.
Yeah, and we all have those moments where we feel like our thinking is limited, right?
Sure.
He's suggesting that there's a way to break through that.
So how does he connect this to actually creating something like a screenplay or directing a film?
He shares some pretty fascinating anecdotes in the book. Like, for example, he describes this moment when he was really wrestling with the meaning behind Eraserhead.
Oh, his first feature film.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
He just felt like something was missing, some crucial element that would like unlock the whole thing.
And this is where TM comes in.
Exactly. He says he was reading the Bible one day and suddenly this one sentence just clicked for him.
Wow.
It gave him this key to understanding Eraserhead in a whole new way.
That's pretty amazing. Though he doesn't actually say what the sentence was right.
He doesn't, which
Yeah.
I guess is pretty classic Lynch,
Yeah.
Leaves us with a little mystery. But the point is that he really sees TM as a way to refine his intuition,
Yeah.
to become more receptive to those intuitive flashes. He even talks about this feel-think approach to filmmaking
Interesting.
and how TM helps him sharpen that instinct.
So it's like trusting your gut, but a gut that's been trained through years of meditation.
Right.
That reminds me of his collaboration with Angelo Badalamenti.
Oh, you mean the story where Lynch would, talk and Badalamenti would play his words on the piano?
Exactly.
Yes.
It's such a unique process, relying on that deep intuitive connection between them.
Yeah.
But it's not just about intuition, right? There's also this idea of connecting to something bigger, something beyond just our own thoughts and feelings.
You're talking about the unified field.
Yeah, that's where things get really fascinating.
Right.
He brings that up a lot in the book. Can you explain that a little more for our listeners?
Yeah. Sure. So the unified field is a term used in physics to describe this underlying field of pure consciousness
Okay.
from which everything in the universe emerges.
So this unified field, it's like this idea of tapping into something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and Lynch seems to believe that TM is actually like a way to access it.
So how does that actually work?
Well, it's almost like he sees TM as this bridge between science and spirituality.
Interesting.
He talks about how, modern physics and ancient Vedic science, even though they use different language, they seem to be converging on this idea of a unified field of consciousness.
Okay, so it's not just a mystical concept. There's some scientific basis to it.
Exactly. And what's really interesting is that Lynch doesn't just, talk about it intellectually.
Right.
He describes the experience of transcending, of accessing this unified field in really vivid terms.
So like an altered state.
Yes, but one that you can learn to access consciously through the practice of TM. He even compares it to those moments right before you fall asleep, where you might experience that falling sensation and a glimpse of white light. But with TM, you're able to access that state at will.
So it's not about forcing yourself to concentrate or empty your mind.
Right.
It's more about allowing your mind to settle into this different state of awareness.
Exactly. And Lynch really emphasizes that there's no effort involved. It's about letting go, surrendering to the natural process of transcending.
So how does all of this this access to the unified field, how does that translate into, actual practical benefits in our lives? I mean, aside from the creativity.
Well, Lynch believes that experiencing this state of pure consciousness actually has a ripple effect on all aspects of our being. He talks about feeling more compassionate, more aware of the suffering of others, and just, more connected to the world around him.
So it's not just about personal gain, it's about expanding our sense of empathy and responsibility towards others.
Absolutely. And he even takes it a step further. He sees the potential for TM to address global issues.
Wow. Things
Things like violence and conflict. He talks about this concept from Vedic science called the square root of 1% effect,
I've heard of that.
where, if even a small percentage of a population practices these advanced meditation techniques together in a group, it can actually have a measurable impact on the surrounding environment.
Wait, so you're saying like a small group meditating can actually reduce violence in a city?
That's what the research suggests.
Huh.
There have been studies showing a correlation between these peace-creating groups and reductions in crime rates and social unrest.
That's incredible. And Lynch is actually putting these ideas into practice, right? I mean, I know he has a foundation that promotes transcendental meditation.
He does the David Lynch Foundation for Consciousness-Based Education and World Peace. He's especially passionate about bringing TM to schools.
So wow.
He believes that, teaching children to access this deeper level of consciousness can have a profound impact on their well-being, their academic performance, and ultimately their ability to, create a more peaceful world.
So he's not just advocating for individuals to practice TM, he's actively trying to integrate it into education systems.
Exactly. He talks about visiting schools where, violence was rampant, and after implementing TM, there was a complete turnaround.
Really?
Students were calmer, more focused, and they were even performing better academically. He even describes visiting a school in Iowa, the Maharishi School,
I've heard of that.
which has fully embraced consciousness-based education. He was blown away by a play he saw there performed by students who weren't, trained actors, but they had this incredible presence and understanding.
That's so inspiring. It really makes you wonder, if we equip kids with these tools early on, what kind of positive change we could see in the world.
That's Lynch's hope. He believes it could be the key to achieving world peace.
That's a big statement.
It is. I know that sounds like a lofty goal, maybe even a bit naive, but
Well, he addresses that, right? I remember him talking about how people tend to scoff at the idea of world peace.
he does. He even jokes about how beauty pageant contestants always say they want world peace. And everyone laughs.
But he genuinely believes that, if we can shift consciousness on a large enough scale, it's actually possible.
He does. And it's not just wishful thinking, He backs it up with research and real-world examples like those studies on the square root of 1% effect.
Right.
He's essentially saying that by cultivating peace and unity within ourselves, we can radiate that outwards and actually impact the world around us.
So it all comes back to that initial phrase that sparked his interest in meditation. True happiness lies within.
Exactly. But it's not just about individual happiness. It's about recognizing our interconnectedness, you know?
Hmm.
The fact that we all share this underlying field of consciousness, and that by accessing it, we can not only transform our own lives, but also contribute to creating a more peaceful and harmonious world.
It's a powerful message, and it feels especially relevant in today's world, with all the challenges and divisions we're facing.
Absolutely. And it's not just about meditation, you know? It's about finding what works for you, what helps you connect with that deeper level of yourself, and then committing to it.
It's really about finding that thing that helps you connect, deeper with yourself.
Yeah. And for Lynch, that was transcendental meditation.
Right.
It was his path to, accessing that inner well of creativity and peace and connection.
Uh-huh.
But he makes it clear it's not the only way.
Yeah.
The key is finding what works for you.
Right. It might be painting for some people, or spending time in nature, or listening to music.
Exactly. It's about finding that thing that helps quiet your mind and tap into that deeper awareness,
Right.
that connection with creativity and inspiration.
I feel like we've covered so much ground today.
Yeah, we have.
From Lynch's, initial skepticism about meditation to the whole art life concept and that need for uninterrupted time for creativity. We also got into his ideas about the unified field
Right.
and the potential for TM to cultivate peace, both in ourselves and in the world.
And honestly, we've only scratched the surface.
Yeah.
His book goes into a lot more detail.
It does.
And it really offers a fascinating look into the mind of, such a unique artist.
I love how he mixes personal stories with, philosophical ideas and even practical advice.
Right.
It's not just about filmmaking, it's about life.
Yeah. And it's written in such a classic Lynchian style,
Totally.
quirky, profound, and often, unexpectedly funny.
I'd highly recommend it to anyone curious about creativity or consciousness,
Yeah.
or anyone who just wants to get a glimpse into how David Lynch, creates those mind-bending films.
And maybe even inspire you to find your own way to catch those big fish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with this one thought that really stuck with me from the book.
Okay.
Lynch writes, if you want to catch a big fish, you've got to go deeper.
What do you think he means by that?
I think it's a call to, explore our inner depths, to really move beyond the surface level of our thoughts and feelings and dive into that vast ocean of pure consciousness that he talks about.
And maybe in doing that, we discover not only our own creative potential, but a deeper connection to, ourselves, to each other, and to the universe.
It's a beautiful message, and one I think we can all really learn from.
Absolutely.
So to everyone listening, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
And like Lynch says, true happiness lies within.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.